Hi, I'm Kurt Vincent, editor of the Bladen Journal. Thank you for joining me on the Saturday show. Today I'm at probably one of the most historical places in all of Bladen County, Harmony Hall Plantation. It's about 100 acres. It's located in White Oak, and it has a history that dates back close to 300 years. My guests today are two members of the Bladen County Historical Society. I have with me Lori Smith and also Brenda Freeman. Thank you, ladies, for joining me today. I appreciate it. The first question I have about this plantation, for those who may not really know, can somebody give us a little brief history of what Harmony Hall Plantation has to offer?
Well, it's one of the few places I know that goes back into the 18th century. We think it was built between 1760 and 1770, and it was occupied in 1933. And somehow, miraculously, it has survived all those years. Even the neglect between the 30s and the 60s. But the Historical Society got it in 62, and in 1986, we had up and going and volunteers, and people would come and visit, and we've been going constantly since then.
I know back in its beginning, back in the 1700s, this had I guess there's a legend attached to this with General Cornwallis and the British and all that. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we call it a legend because part of it, is probably a little bit hedged. Cornwallis and James Webster did come down the Cape Fear River after the Battle of Beaufort Courthouse. We know that is a fact. And they were trying to get to Wilmington to get Webster better medical attention because he was a dying man because of his wounds. And the Richardsons say that he definitely came here, and Mrs. Richardson saw him, overheard his battle plans, sent them to her husband in Camden, South Carolina, and that's why we are no longer subject to the King of England. There are a few things wrong with that, but I fully believe Mrs. Richardson saw him somewhere.
Right. Now I understand her plan, her overhearing those plans actually took place right on these steps.
Yeah. And he was in the bedroom that she and her husband had shared. I think her husband was away then. And we know for a fact that he could come down the river.
Right.
And he probably stayed here or either at her house, the pretty place, because there weren't many fine houses that would have attracted him
And
at that time.
That pretty place is across the river,
It's
about
right
a mile
straight
away.
across the river, and if you go to the pretty place, you can stand on the upstairs porch and look into the river.
Okay. That's interesting.
So either way would connect you to Mrs. Richardson.
Right. Okay. Now, Brenda, I know you all have plans. Your organization has plans and visions and hopes for this plantation area. Can you explain what those visions and hopes are for Harmony Hall Plantation?
Yes, we're in the process of revitalizing the Bladen County Historical Society in an effort to generate some funds to restore and replenish this building and then other historic sites throughout the county. We would like to get this back to its original state. It's closed now, but it needs some fine-tuning on it. And then to have programs and more programs throughout the year to interest the people, attract the public, and to educate. Also to use the facility for tours and for training classes and so forth through the school system to come out and make the history real to the students to hopefully improve their school grades.
Now, this plantation home is not the only thing here. These grounds also include a number of other buildings. Can you briefly just explain what those are?
Yes, we have the Coley School that was built in the late 1800s that was moved here from near White Lake. And there's a history to go with that. The students could learn how it was in schools then when there was just one-room schoolhouses. Then we have a chapel that was brought in that was also built in the late 1800s. And then there is a Tatum store that was built by a freed slave shortly after the Civil War ended. We also have the general store up front that was built in the early 1900s, and the Wonder Camel Cottage that was also built in the 1900s. So we have 300 years of history here that we could use and help the students and our tourists, adults, everyone understand the changes in society and lifestyles over the last 300 years.
I know we also have off to the left here an old kitchen building that was moved here from Clarkton area. And I think another thing that's interesting with the chapel is there's still services that are held there every Sunday.
Yes.
That's great. How important is it that we try to preserve history like which can be found here at Harmony Hall Plantation?
Well, I just feel like there's some reason that this house has still survived. And there's not that much for young people to come and look at. And when you see history rather than read about it, it's just so much more real.
Yeah, when look at history was not my best subject in school, unfortunately. But I think since I've gotten involved with this, I think if I had seen a place like this, if I had come and seen it and played with the toys that they had, that the children used back then, and experienced the agricultural environment that they lived in back then, that would have made history real. And also it impacts all areas of our lives, because in the past, the entire society was influenced by the lifestyle of the agriculture. You know, they had their recreation was based on the agricultural environment, and the churches were a major part of history of their lifestyle back then. And that was a lot of times that was their main social outing, was the events at the church, and the corn shuckings and all of those things that they had that were their social events. And so I think that helping the children to understand the lifestyle and see it firsthand it makes it more memorable than actually reading about it in a book.
Right. I think it's safe to say that for people who have never been here, especially when you walk onto these grounds, and especially through this door, it takes you back.
It really does, yes. It makes it real.
Right.
And it's peaceful.
What kind of events do you have planned for the near future for this area?
Well, not the last weekend, but the weekend before Memorial Day weekend, we have what we call a Living History Weekend, and we're going to emphasize the history of Bladen County, when it was the original, before it was divided into the 34 counties.
Okay.
We're going to have blacksmithing and Civil War soldiers and Revolutionary soldiers and just any part of that history.
Right. And you're expecting hundreds or thousands?
Thousands, yeah.
Hoping. Okay. Last but not least, ladies, there may be some folks who would like to be involved in helping make your mission and vision and hopes come true. How can people get involved?
Well, they can call me at 910-862-2714. I'm president of the Bladen County Historical Society, and I can help you with that. Also, Laurie can help. She handles things here at Harmony Hall for us. And your number?
866-4844.
Okay.
And there is a website, harmonyhallnc.com.
Okay. Great. Well, ladies, I wish you all success in this, and I appreciate you joining us here on the Saturday show. Folks, I can only urge you to come out here, make arrangements to bring your family, friends, and come visit Harmony Hall Plantation. You won't regret it. Thank you for joining us on the Saturday show.